Do we have a problem, though, you make a claim that all these claims about trade and immigration and terrorism, that they're oversimplified. And I agree with all of that, obviously. Trade, I believe, is a net benefit, as you say. But clearly, there are people who are going to go out of business because of free trade. I mean, there are certainly towns in the Midwest that have gone completely out of business. They've gone defunct because of free trade. And that is one of the costs of free trade that has always existed. And when it comes to immigration, obviously, certain immigration is good, and not all immigrants are created equal. They're not all the same in terms of the qualities that they bring to the table, or in terms of the culture that they're bringing across our borders. All of that is true. And then on the flip, but when you get to the flip side, then there's a similarly simplistic misrepresentation that's being promulgated. So when it comes to trade, for example, you have people like President Trump saying that trade is not only it's not just that it's a net benefit that has downsides, it is a net loss, that trade itself, trade wars are easy to win and good. Or when he says that immigration itself is of no benefit, essentially, that immigration, he wants to curb legal immigration, not just illegal immigration, and he doesn't really want to vet anybody. He just doesn't want to have a lot of immigrants come into the country. He's pretty anti-immigration, generally speaking. Or when he says, with regard to the other issues that you're talking about, when he says with regard to Islam, for example, well, the solution is let's just ban all Muslims from entering the country, as opposed to there are problems within Islam that have to be dealt with within Islam, and we have to vet people coming in with a certain level of strictness. He eventually comes around to that position, but that's not the original position that he's espousing. When you have two blunt instruments slapping each other,
right,
is there any sort of plausible solution making that can occur? Both sides are now slapping each other with these bricks, with these blunt instruments. Neither is representing the issue fully. And so you can't have an actual honest debate about these issues without people recognizing the upsides and downsides of these particular policies. Is there a way forward from that, or are we so ensconced in the battle that we're just basically stuck here?
Well, this is what you and I are engaged in. This is what's so fascinating. This is what I got completely wrong. Okay? I thought that when we finally had Trump, that the Democratic Party, who knows what's wrong with all of these perspectives, would cry uncle and say, look, we have to be straight with people because we cannot have Donald Trump in office. So if they really think that this guy is the second coming of Hitler and that he's the greatest threat to world peace that we've ever seen, and he's destroying the country, why not admit that the economists know that it's not a Pareto improvement where everybody gets better off, that it's only Caldor Hicks, and that you need to tax some winners to pay some losers, or to do more in terms of relocating people in different sectors of the country when you do have an open trade situation? Why not instead, when it comes to immigration, be honest with people that fundamentally the big issue is not the tiny efficiency gain, which economists call the Harburger Triangle, but the enormous thing below it called the Borjas Rectangle. And it's an attempt to use immigrants cynically to transfer wealth from American labor to American capital, right? At some level, why not be open about the fact that we actually have a pretty good situation with the Muslims in the US, where we don't have a highly radicalized population, and that they are in fact helping us in our intelligence work because they speak languages like Pashto and Farsi that we don't speak, but that there is some sort of a problem. Why is it that when they had the opportunity to take the power away from Trump and say, look, okay, we oversimplified it. We need to be more honest with people so that we don't get this reaction. I thought that they would take that opportunity. The fact that they doubled down on this kind of crazy intersectional identity stuff is what's terrifying, because it seems to indicate to us that there is no bottom. There's no way in which things get so bad that we start leveling with people. And I don't know what to do about that. And I think that's part of why we're in this IDW thing, because what we're doing in microcosm is we're saying, look, I also agree that trade can be a good thing. Maybe you want a little bit more trade than I do. Maybe you want a little bit more immigration than I do. I actually published a paper that suggested how to do open immigration using the securitization of rights to have a true free market so that workers benefit alongside of capital. There is zero interest in corporate America in that, because the interest is in taking something that belongs to labor and handing it to capital. So my feeling is that if you and I were to model what a debate like that looked like, it would look absolutely nothing like what's going on. And this was interesting for me. When you just went on Bill Maher after you had been in Dave Rubin's studio with me, what I saw was the level of distortion that happened when you went into a formatted program. Bill Maher is about the best thing on standard television there is, and there's no way it can compete with this long format discussion where we actually get into things and we don't sit here and just beat our partisan drum. So even though I've been handed a mug that says leftist tears, the fact of the matter is that I would much rather have a full-on drag-em-out discussion about trade, immigration, and terror with an honest conservative than somebody trying to win an election inside of the DNC.